It is Fat Electrician time. We're gonna have Nick talking to us about the fact that apparently we've already nuked Greenland once. Sal, let's go. Oh, let me shrink myself down. I'm a little bit big. Ariel, that should do. All right, now let's go.
You know, after going on tour a couple of times doing live shows, I've met tens of thousands of fans, and one of the biggest comments that I get is, I wish you were my history teacher in high school. I probably would have actually learned something. So I thought it'd be cool to make a video on what it would be like if I was teaching a history class.
Oh, is that so?
And in my opinion, one of the most important things a history teacher can do is demonstrate to their class that history is important because history can be the best predictor of the future, and it can help you understand current events. So today, I'm gonna try to do just that.
Cool.
Today we're talking about the time that America accidentally nuked Greenland. I mean, technically we dropped the nuke right on their coastline, but potato, potato. And then that time that we accidentally carved a massive nuclear missile launch facility in the side of a glacier inside of Greenland. And when I say accidentally, I don't mean we accidentally built it. I meant we accidentally got caught. And somewhere along the way, we're gonna answer the question, why is America suddenly obsessed with buying and or taking over Greenland? I've got a news flash for you. It's not sudden. America's been obsessed with acquiring Greenland since the 1800s, and we're gonna get into it right after a word from our sponsor.
Your bagels work for the tier 2. Thank you. Okay, am I gonna have to move?
This video is brought to you by Element. Okay, it's hydration mix.
I don't.
It's electrolytes.
What plants crave?
It's got electrolytes.
Basically, some pro athletes got together. They were annoyed that
That
hydration
movie was
drinks
supposed to
had
be
turned
for
into
fun.
basically
It
what
wasn't
amounts to
supposed to be an
non-carbonated
instruction
soda
manual.
with 34 grams of sugar and a bunch of artificial food dyes. They just wanted electrolytes so their piss would be clear, and they came up with Element. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, Element is basically what hydration drinks were originally meant to be in the first place. Okay, I'll read you the entire ingredient list right now. Salt, magnesium, potassium, natural flavors, stevia extract. If you want it without stevia, you can get the raw version, and it just tastes like salt water. Let's go ahead and compare that ingredient list to a super popular hydration drink that you can find at the gas station. Water, sugar, dextrose, citric acid, salt, sodium citrate, monopotassium phosphate, gum arabic, natural flavor, sucralose, acetate, isobutrate, glycerol, ester of rosin, yellow 6. Sounds fucking healthy.
You know I don't speak Spanish.
Okay, not a chemist, but I'm gonna go ahead and say the Element's better. On top of that, it doesn't come in pre-made bottles. It comes in these fancy little sticks. You throw a handful of them in your backpack, your bag, your pocket, whatever. You drink them whenever you want. They got a bunch of different flavors. They're all good, but my personal favorite's a lemonade, and you can try them all out when you use my link down below, because when you use that link, you're gonna get a free sample pack with your order. Now let's get back to the video. All right, class, our story begins in 1867. The American Civil War has just ended, and the American Secretary of State, William Seward, has decided that he wants to try to purchase Alaska from Russia. Why does he want to purchase Alaska? Can he tell the future? Does he know that Alaska is going to be one of the most strategically valuable pieces of land on the entire planet? No, he does not. He pretty much wants to purchase Alaska for the sole reason so that Britain can't have it. Is it petty? Yes, but also based. In order to accomplish this, he calls upon somebody even pettier than him, the American diplomat to Russia, the legendary Cassius Clay, the most gangster politician of all time.
A Cassius Clay cameo was not on my bingo card for today. Oh, fuck yes. Oh, it's fucking on. Oh, I can't wait to hear about this.
Together, they broker a deal to purchase Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, a whopping 2 cents an acre. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, understanding that Alaska is full of natural resources, on top of that, it is very important geographically for military strategy, it is seen as one of the greatest real estate deals of all time. But that's not really how everybody saw it in 1867, because they didn't know that yet, so they interpreted this as, we just got out of the Civil War, we're broke, and you guys are spending $7.2 million buying a frozen wasteland where nobody wants to live. What a waste of fucking money.
It's a wash. Well, why you do it then, baby Billy? Well, because I'm selfless.
William Seward, on the other hand, is not deterred. He just got one deal done. He wants to keep the momentum going. He looks around and he's like, what else can I buy? And then he sees another frozen wasteland, Greenland. He sends surveyors over there. They bring back reports. He's trying to justify to Congress of why we should buy Greenland. He's in talks with Denmark, trying to purchase it from Denmark. The word is he wants to pay $5.5 million. However, due to the public backlash from Alaska and them not wanting to buy another frozen wasteland, the deal never comes to fruition, even though he really wanted to. And
I have to wonder, if Greenland had been purchased, would it today be a state, or would it be a territory like Puerto Rico? Because I legit don't know how they could I don't know how they could maintain Greenland as a state versus a territory. Yeah, that's my suspicion too, is that it probably would have been a territory versus a state. It's, well, no, because I don't know. It's like back in the 1800s, I don't know, because think about how would they actually defend it? They're already stretched pretty thin, in the United States proper, in the lower 48. I don't think Hawaii had been purchased. I don't think Hawaii had been acquired at this time. So now you've got to send people up into Alaska to deal with that. So now you're stretching resources from the lower 48 into Alaska to maintain security and build up Alaska. And then if you purchase Greenland, then you've got a whole other quote state that you have to sail even further to get to, and then you have to stretch your resources and personnel even thinner, setting up enforcements and establishing homes and businesses and everything in Greenland, which is even further away than Alaska. So that's why I'm thinking maybe a territory. Yeah, maybe a territory. I can't see it actually being a state.
This kicks off America's long-held tradition of trying to buy Greenland from Denmark. Fast forward to the next time that we tried to acquire it. 1910, President Taft decides that he wants to buy Greenland. Why? Is it because he wants to be petty just so the British can't have it? No, not this time. He actually has a good plan and a good reason for wanting it. You see, a couple of years prior to this, a U.S. naval officer and historian by the name of Alfred Thayer Mann came out with his book that kind of revolutionized the world's understanding of global warfare. And this book is called The Influence of Sea Power Upon History. Now, the real quick and dirty of this book is basically he asserts the point that a large navy is better than having a large army.
You think you're so great because you have boats!
He basically makes the point that while big armies are cool, I mean, big armies are always cool, big armies also have big stomachs, and when you're talking about global warfare, you need to be able to transport large quantities of food and supplies across the planet, and you're gonna need a navy to do that, otherwise you're not gonna have a big army for long. When you really condense and boil this down, he's basically saying that trade routes, aka logistics, is the most important part of global warfare. Whoever has the best logistics is probably gonna win. So the question becomes, how do you control the trade routes? Well, you could build a gigantic navy and just have them out on the ocean roaming around 24/7, or you could identify the geographic choke points and just control the choke point where you know the enemy is going to have to pass through, and then you could fight them there.
Tactics, in that baby.
Gap. So that becomes America's global strategy, is to identify trade choke points and then own the land adjacent to those choke points, and that land functionally becomes a giant unsinkable battleship where you can harbor all of your navy and guard that choke point. You control the trade routes, you basically control the world, which is why in 1910 he tries to get his hands on Greenland, because it is one of these choke points. The only way to get from the North Atlantic and the Arctic is to travel between one of two gaps, the gap between Greenland and Iceland, or the gap between Iceland and the UK. So Taft identifies this as a choke point and he tries to buy it. He goes to Denmark and he's like, hey, we kind of want this giant frozen wasteland that you've got here. Don't worry about why. We've got these two Filipino islands under our control. We're willing to trade those to you in exchange. Denmark refuses. So it's looking like Denmark doesn't want to sell any of its empire, but then in 1917, 7 years later, America reapproaches Denmark and is like, hey, we know you're not looking to sell Greenland. However, you have these islands over here that are now called the Virgin Islands, and we need a bunch of forward operational bases and fueling stations for our global empire's navy. Would you be willing to sell it? And Denmark is like, sure, $25 million. America purchases the Virgin Islands from Denmark for $25 million. And this kind of keeps alive the hope or the idea that maybe one day in the future, Denmark will be willing to sell Greenland as well. Fast forward the early morning hours of April 9th, 1940, Germany invades Denmark. Okay, fast forward again, lunchtime, April 9th, 1940, Germany has conquered Denmark. It took about 6 hours.
Took them one day.
Okay, that kind of sounds like I'm talking smack. I'm not. That's just factually what happened. If I was talking smack, I would be like, what the fuck is going on over in Denmark? The Polish had a post office in Danzig that managed to hold out against the Nazis for 15 hours, and your whole country folded in 6? What are you guys doing?
Oh, God, he brought up the Polish mailman. Oh, my God. You guys remember when we reacted to that? Some of you guys might remember when we watched his story about that. Oh, man, his Polish post office and mailman story, that shattered me. God, that absolutely shattered me. So, No, not well. I don't know about before, but warmonger, now it's like European Texas. Now they're all about war. So I don't know if once upon a time, maybe it used to be. Maybe. I don't think so. Honestly, it was always pretty Slavic. But now yeah, it's European Texas or European Florida, depending on which one you want to go with. It's one or the other. But yeah, that Polish post office story. Fuck those guys, like just mailmen, not even soldiers, mailmen, held off the German army for 16 hours. Like they gave everything for that. Oh, that was an incredible story.
Doing. Okay, look, I'm just saying, when the Polish mail carriers are outperforming your entire military, it's not a good look. Buh! They were ambushed and caught off guard. That's not fair. Buh! Yeah, that's cope. I'm sorry. I'm not buying the statement that the Polish mailmen had better operational intel as to what the Nazis were up to than an entire country's military. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Regardless, Greenland is now defenseless. America already wants Greenland. On top of that, they definitely don't want the Nazis taking over Greenland and putting, forward weather stations and airstrips and all kinds of shit they're going to need for war to attack the U.S. one day. So America immediately moves in. Now, legally speaking, America has no authority to do this. Factually speaking, who the fuck's gonna stop them? Because it sure as shit ain't Denmark.
Damn.
So about a year later, America decides, okay, we should probably make this, legal so we have an excuse to actually have this humongous military presence in Greenland. Cue this man, Heinrich Kaufmann, Denmark's ambassador in the United States of America. He's living in the US when Denmark is invaded. So obviously, not a huge fan of the Nazis. They just conquered his entire country. So he goes to the American government and is like, look, I'm willing to sign pretty much whatever you want. He signs the Greenland Defense Agreement, which basically just says, Denmark still owns Greenland. However, the United States can do whatever the fuck they want there. You want to build airstrips, occupy it with your military, go for it.
Say that again?
To which the American government is like, I'm sorry, you're just the ambassador. Do you have the authority to do this? Like, did the Danish government sign off on this? And he's like, no, not at all. They're actually going to charge me with high treason for this. But as far as I'm concerned, they're all under Nazi occupation. We can't trust anything they say. And I think this is what the king would want. So I'm going to go ahead and give you permission to do it. So you're just like one guy going rogue with no actual authority to do this on behalf of your country. They're actually going to nickname me the King of Greenland after this. Good enough for me. Send in the troops.
Roll it.
And they will have felt grateful and encouraged when the president expressed his hope for a speedy liberation of Denmark, and they heard the president's assurance that Greenland will remain Danish. In this world of broken treaties, they know the word of the American people and their government can be trusted.
The Danish government then goes on to charge Heinrich with high treason.
Wow. Hearing about the country back during this is why this period of time, like the 1940s, is like well, no, it didn't age like milk ice. It didn't. Back then, during the 1940s, it was true. And that's why, a lot of people look at the 1940s as one of the greatest generations, because, yeah, you had stupid politicians making stupid decisions. That's literally every generation that has ever been in existence. But America said, we're going to do something, and they did it. And the men that were responsible for getting it done got it the fuck done. And it's always just, you hear this news broadcast, and you 100% believe it. If someone like him made this announcement, to a similar announcement today, no one would fucking believe it, because it's all backdoor deals and bullshit lies and all that. Back during the 1940s, was there some? Yes, it happens it happens backdoor deals and lies happen since the existence of man. But you could believe this. You could actually take what he said to the bank, and it meant something. And we just don't have that anymore. And Raven Knight, thank you for the prime.
The Danish government then goes on to charge Heinrich with high treason, tells him to come back home to face his punishment, and he's like, stays living in America for the rest of World War II. After World War II, returns home when the government is back to normal and he is welcomed as a hero. So World War II ends, 1946. Now we've got a problem because Denmark kind of wants their territory back, but also America has spent a ton of money developing all of these defenses and airstrips and all kinds of shit all over Greenland. They've got a lot of money invested. They kind of want something out of it. Or better yet, to just own it as a whole. So President Truman goes to the Danish government and is like, I will give you $100 million in straight gold if you sell me Greenland.
I love gold.
To which the Danish government is like, counteroffer, we're not going to sell you Greenland. You can keep your gold, but we're willing to sign the Defense of Greenland Agreement. To which the American government is like, okay, I'm listening. What are the terms of this agreement? Well, basically, we still own Greenland, but you can go ahead and stay there, occupy it, have a huge military presence there, and more or less act like you own it, but on paper, we still own it. I'm sorry, your counteroffer is that you want me to keep all my money and then just continue occupying Greenland and act like I own it. Uh-huh. Deal?
Damn good deal.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. I don't know what's worse. Denmark's ability to defend itself from the Nazis or their negotiating ability, because that is some insane negotiating tactics. This would literally be like...
Actually, you know what? It may not be. Honestly, this actually might be pretty smart, because if you think about it, Denmark knows that they don't have the resource. Denmark knows they don't have the resources to bolster Greenland, to be a defensive front. They know that the United States does. They're willing to spend the money to bolster it, and Denmark is an ally of the United States. Exactly. They are literally getting free defense from the United States in Greenland. It's honestly pretty fucking smart. Because Denmark, obviously, like, they got rolled in a heartbeat by the Germans. They realize we got rolled in a heartbeat by the Germans. We do not have a good military that can repel aggressive invaders like the Nazi Germany. The U.S. wants to set up a defensive block, like it's essentially a full defensive combat arms on Greenland. And this was back during a time when the U.S. happily defended all of its allies. So if Denmark ever needs help again, the U.S. is right there with God knows what kind of, armament and military presence. Like, who knows how big it's going to get. And so the U.S. is going to be right there. And if Denmark ever needs help, they have the U.S. and their military might right fucking there. And they don't have to pay a fucking thing for it. It's honestly not that stupid. Yeah, Greenland's just north of it, but Greenland is closer to Denmark than the United States is to Denmark. They're gonna their response time, if they ever need assistance, will be a hell of a lot quicker than if the U.S. just responded from the United States itself. You have a forward operating base much closer to Denmark than the continent of North America, and they're setting up these these defensive measures. They're setting up offensive measures. You're gonna have a full military might on Greenland, and they are allies, so if they ever need help from America, America will be right fucking there, and Denmark doesn't have to pay a dime for it. It's honestly a really good deal.
Walking up to your dream house that's not for sale, it's not on the market, so you go up, ring the doorbell, the homeowner answers, you're like, hey, I really like this house, I know it's not for sale, I'm gonna overpay you for it, I'll give you $10 million if you sell me this house. And the homeowner's like, counteroffer, you can keep your money, I'll move out, you can move in and just act like you own the place for free. Okay, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Is this a test?
Regardless, World War II is over, so America kind of just abandons a lot of their little military outposts that they have on Greenland, and there's really no use for it anymore. Fast forward to 1951, the Cold War's heating up, and now we're worried about the Soviets attacking. We've got Alaska guarding us on one side, we're wide open on the other side, we need another big base in Greenland. On top of that, we also want to control Greenland because man's strategy still applies, and now it's more adopted doctrine. The gaps that we talked about earlier.
No, they're not. That's the thing they're not renting it. Greenland just said you can put whatever you want there. They don't have to pay Greenland a dime for it, for anything. They're taking in their payment in the United States, probably willing to jump in and defend them at any time they want, anytime they need them. That's the payment that they're taking security as their payment.
Between Greenland and Iceland and the UK actually has a term now, the GU gap. And now it's even more important because now not only does America need to control it for trade routes, they also need to control it to prevent Soviet submarines from entering the Atlantic and getting close to America. So in 1951, America launches Operation Blue Jay, where they go in.
All right, let me the map is, okay. So you got the United States over here, right? You have Greenland here. So if the U.S. builds up U.S. bases, including airfields and ship ports, if Denmark ever needs help, it's a hell of a lot faster for the U.S., either by ship or by boat, to send forces from Greenland straight in versus needing to come all the way from the United States. That's why they said, go ahead and take Greenland. We can't do anything with it. You're going to build up military bases and have military forces on it. And it's going to be closer to our country than your country. My guess is that's why. Is the response time would be much faster. They could probably offer aid much quicker than they could before.
Actually has a term now, the GU gap. And now it's even more important because now not only does America need to control it for trade routes, they also need to control it to prevent Soviet submarines from entering the Atlantic and getting close to America. So in 1951, America launches Operation Blue Jay, where they go in and construct an entire air base, Thule Air Base, in 104 days, which is a massive logistical flex, showing off to the entire world. They make a whole documentary. They promote the holy shit out of it to show off to the Soviets. This is what we're capable of. And now we also have this air base that you're going to have to deal with if you want to fuck with us. Okay, so now we're defended by the Soviets. Everything's good. Fast forward to 1957, the Soviets have a big year. They have their first successful intercontinental ballistic missile test, and they launch Sputnik 1, which is the first satellite to orbit the planet. This scares the holy shit out of the American public and the US military because, well, I mean, they have a missile that can now reach America, and they have a satellite up in the sky above our heads. They can obviously target and reach us anywhere they want. That's not actually true. They didn't really have that capability, at least not to the degree that everybody feared, but that was the fear. And this is where the Cold War era concept of mutually assured destruction, or MAD, comes into play. Which, if you don't know, is basically the concept of like, hey, America's got a bunch of nukes, the USSR has a bunch of nukes, so we're just not going to nuke each other because as soon as I detect that you're going to nuke me, I'm going to retaliate and nuke you, and then we're all dead. And this causes Alaska and Greenland to both become even more important because now they're going to be hosting early warning systems to detect Soviet missiles if they end up firing them, and that's going to give America enough time to ideally respond with their own nukes. But the problem is that in 1957, America doesn't have ICBMs yet. We're not going to have an ICBM until 1959. So the only way to maintain this mutually assured destruction is to have these early warning systems in place and to literally have the pilots and the nukes loaded on the plane. And the pilots are literally going to live and sleep on this plane, being ready to take off in a matter of minutes if they detect a Soviet missile inbound. So that's what's going on. Fast forward to 1959, America gets ICBMs. You want to know what would go great with our new ICBMs? A secret underground layer to launch all our ICBMs from. Well, technically it's not underground, it's going to be under ice. We're going to go to Greenland, where there's this like mile thick ice sheet, and we're going to carve a secret underground tunnel network into this ice sheet and use it to launch all of our missiles. And this is going to be a top secret project known as Project Iceworm, and on paper it's a brilliant idea because this is going to be concealed under all of the ice. It's going to be away from mainland America, so it's basically going to be immune to a Soviet first strike because they're not going to be able to identify where it's at. It's up in the Arctic, it's hard to get to, and even if you do get there, there's no identifying terrain features. It's just white ice wasteland absolutely everywhere. The Soviets are never going to be able to find it. Off paper, just, you know, as a guy, as an electrician, a dude that's built a lot of stuff, the idea of building an entire nuclear base out of ice kind of seems like a stupid idea because I know this is going to be shocking to many of you. Ice fucking melts. But hey, what do I know? I mean, I'm just some dude that makes a living selling t-shirts on his YouTube channel. I'm sure the scientists and the people put in charge of trillions of tax dollars are much smarter than me, and it's going to work out fine. Let's see what happens.
We call this foreshadowing.
So in 1959, they start building this secret under ice base, and pretty quickly, the people from Denmark are like, hey, what the fuck you guys doing? And even though America has a treaty that pretty much says they can do whatever they want on Greenland, they also can't really tell the Danish people what they're doing for a couple of reasons. One, it's a secret,
Security.
and two, they're gonna be fucking pissed. You see, at this point in time, Denmark has a pretty solid stance on like, we don't want anything to do with this nuclear arms race. They're sitting there watching America and the USSR basically have a pissing contest to see who could blow up the world the best, and Denmark is like, we don't want anything to do with this, because if you start building nuclear facilities on Greenland or our land or anything associated with us, we become a target. We don't want that target painted on our back, which, to be fair, is completely reasonable. So the American government is like,
because don't forget, Greenland is still owned by Denmark. So if the Russians detect that it's being built on Greenland, the eye of Russia would immediately go, what? Hey, Denmark, what you doing? And then if Denmark gives up, well, that's the Americans doing it. We've got a treaty with them where they can basically do whatever the fuck they want. That eye is going to be looking at Denmark even harder. So, yes, understandable reaction.
okay, we'll stop. No, I'm just kidding. They fucking lie. They then proceed to turn this into a humongous PR campaign where they tell Denmark and the rest of the world that they're building something called Camp Century. And Camp Century is basically framed as one giant experiment slash showing off contest where America's gonna go in there, build this massive under ice base, showing off American logistics and American construction capability. And then once we do that, we're gonna have a bunch of people go and live in this under ice base where they never see the sun as a huge social experiment to see how people handle living underground in close quarters with one another, in case people did ever have to go underground because of nuclear fallout.
Okie dokie.
Okay, now on one hand, that sounds kind of fucking stupid, but on the other hand, this is the American government, so that makes complete sense. Sure, go ahead and build your underground experiment. So the American...
Because we always be building shit. And everybody knows we be building shit. So it's no surprise that we built shit.
Americans get to work. First things first, how are we going to power this thing? Okay, if we have to ship diesel fuel for generators all the way into the Arctic Ocean, that's going to be a humongous logistical strain, so that's not ideal. You know what would be cool? We could build the world's first portable nuclear reactor and then ship it to the Arctic and then install it in our fucking freezer base. Next question, how are we going to get fresh drinking water? Well, we are surrounded by ice. You can't drink ice. We got to figure out some way to melt it. So they go inside the base, they drill a gigantic hole straight down, and then just basically drop a space heater into it and then proceed to melt the ice in the hole, basically creating a giant well of fresh glacial ice. I'm gonna say that again, but slower. They're gonna melt a bunch of the ice underneath their base, which is made out of ice. Absolutely nothing could go wrong. And then we're not even gonna touch on the fact that like ancient bacteria and viruses, like, I don't know, the bubonic plague can all get frozen and trapped inside of glacial ice and be preserved there, and then once thawed out can be completely active and back to normal, and then that's the water that we're gonna be drinking. That,
I mean, they literally make horror movies of that concept. There's literally a Val Kilmer movie, like a body horror kind of movie, or a biological horror movie, that literally is that plot. That is the plot, is that the polar ice caps are melting because of global warming, and because the polar ice caps melt, it basically like releases ancient primordial bacteria that just fucks up everything. Yeah, I think it was blood glacier. Yeah, that's it exactly. So, yeah. Well, the thing is a little different. The thing didn't happen because of global warming. The thing happened because of blasting. Don't forget, they discovered the ship for the thing because the Norwegians did blasting, and they blasted it free. And that's how they found it. That's how they found the ship and the alien and the thing did thaw. But that was afterwards. But they discovered it via dynamite blasting. So.
We're not even, we'll filter the water. It'll be fine.
There's water from a glacier.
Regardless, America's building this giant base, okay? Fast forward 1 year, 1960. Again, Soviets managed to scare the shit out of the Americans. Okay, at this point, the Soviet Union, they're not doing too hot, but they're not about to let the Americans know that. So Nikita Khrushchev comes out and he tells the Americans that they're mass producing ICBMs like sausages. And again, this scares the Americans because it potentially breaks the concept of mutually assured destruction, because America only has the capability to shoot down so many nukes that are incoming. If the Soviets, you know, manage to launch thousands of nukes all at once, and they're launching, I don't know, 50 nukes at one nuclear facility, but America can only stop 20 of them, they're still going to be able to destroy that nuclear facility, meaning America won't have time to respond with their nukes, meaning that the Soviet Union is more inclined to destroy America because mutually assured destruction is no longer intact. Okay, we can't have that, so America's got to do something. We're going to go back to old reliable. We're going to go back to having the nukes loaded on the planes with the pilots ready. The problem is ICBMs have improved over the last couple of years, and being able to have the planes in the air in 10 minutes isn't going to be fast enough because the nukes could still hit in that 10-minute gap, still destroying the concept of MAD. So now the only thing America can do is launch Operation Chrome Dome, one of the greatest names for a mission ever, where America is just going to have planes in the air 24/7 all day, every day for years. Okay, I'm not exaggerating. We actually did this. We loaded nuclear warheads onto B-52 heavy bombers and just had them doing hot laps around the entire continent of North America all day, every day, 24/7. That way the planes...
That would be Can you imagine being one of these pilots that your literally only job every day, all day, is to just circle the entire perimeter of the United States every day for years? That would be unbearable. Oh, I have no doubt the environment's through a fit. It's like it's cramped. You're in cramped pilot seat. You're probably cramped in the back. You've got to wear all this gear with breathing equipment like all fucking day, and it's just, it would be miserable and boring. Oh, absolutely, it would be boring as hell. Oh my. Nope. I don't even think Grandpa Buff could come up with the slurs that these pilots probably spewed out during this multi-year operation.
Are already in the air, so once America detects that the nukes are inbound, they're just going to radio the pilots, hey, we're all going to die, they fired the nukes. The pilots are going to be like, copy, they're going to change course, break out of their hot lap, and beeline it to the USSR and bomb them back. Okay, imagine having that pilot's job. Like, I'm going to go to work, it's going to be super boring, or it's going to be the apocalypse. There's no in between.
Doesn't sound so bad.
Anyways, that goes on for years.
How'd they keep from falling asleep? They probably flew in shifts. If the pilot got sleepy, co-pilot would take over. Pilot would grab some shut-eye. After the pilot woke up, he would take over. Co-pilot would go to sleep. That's very likely how they did it.
Fast forward to 1963, going back over to our secret project Iceworm, our glacier base. You're never going to believe this. We have to abandon the project because the ice is fucking melting. Luckily, obviously, this was predictable and everybody saw this coming, so they had a plan to evacuate and take out everything with them. No, I'm just kidding. They basically grabbed all the important shit. They took the nuclear reactor, all the other super important stuff, and took that back to America, and then just left a bunch of other military equipment and, radioactive waste and fuel and all kinds of other toxic shit inside the ice, thinking that the ice would just, freeze over and it would stay frozen in this glacier forever. Okay, look, I'm the most pro-America dude on the planet, but seriously, we gotta work on our pull-out game because, historically speaking, we're not good at it.
You were leaving it in for years, son.
So, secret ice layer, not gonna happen, but we do still have Operation Chrome Dome, and that's going... it's going. In 1961, there was a crash and we accidentally dropped 2 of the nukes in North Carolina. Luckily, they didn't detonate. And then in the same year, in 1961, we also accidentally dropped some on California. Luckily, those didn't detonate either. And then in 1964, same thing again.
But he thinks some people today might disagree with that last sentiment.
Happened in Maryland, got lucky, they didn't detonate, and then in 1966, our luck would run out. On the coastline of Spain in the Mediterranean, a B-52 carrying 4 hydrogen bombs had a mid-air collision with an oil tanker that was doing aerial refueling. 2 of the bombs had their conventional explosives detonate, blowing the nuclear material all over the place, contaminating absolutely everything, and it's going to emit radiation for millions of years, so that takes a ton of extensive cleanup. One of the bombs fell on land, did not detonate, and was recovered, and the other bomb fell into the Mediterranean and is just sitting down there at the bottom of the ocean, and America has to figure out how to go get it. So Uncle Sam calls up one of his main characters, a guy by the name of Carl Brashear, the first ever black master diver in American history, who lost his leg in an accident and then went on to become the first amputee master diver in history. And they send him down to the bottom of the ocean in his dive suit, and he is able to recover this nuclear warhead. There's an entire movie about this guy. It's one of my favorite military.
I was wondering if this was the basis for Men of Honor. I was wondering about that. Yes, the Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro was like the commander. Cuba Gooding Jr. was this gentleman in question. Wow. Yeah, like that is a fucking that is a badass. That would do a dive like this with the false leg to recover a nuke. Bad ass.
Movies of all time. It's called Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding Jr. You should absolutely watch it if you haven't already. Fast forward again, 1968, Operation Chrome Dome. B-52 pilots are flying thermonuclear warheads that are active off the coast of Greenland. They're headed up into the Arctic. It's getting kind of cold in the cabin, and one of the pilots has a brilliant idea to keep it warm in there. He's gonna, adjust some shit in there, and he's gonna have hot air from the engine manifold flow directly into the cabin. The air coming into the cabin is so hot that it catches the upholstery of the chairs they're sitting on fire, and the crew is forced to bail out. The plane crashes, the conventional explosives and the nuclear bombs detonate, blowing radioactive material all over the fucking place, and America has to go in there, and there is extensive cleanup that has to happen. On top of that, the Danish government is absolutely pissed that America's flying nuclear warheads over their territory when they specifically told us that they wanted nothing to do with that, and this leads to the end of Operation Chrome Dome.
We need it for national protection. We need Greenland for national protection.
Fast forward to modern times, both 2019 and today, Donald Trump, during both of his presidential terms, has attempted to acquire Greenland. Why does he want Greenland? Well, for all of the reasons that we've already highlighted in this video,
same as it always was.
Still relevant. But why does he want it right now? Why is it so important right now? In the 1800s, it was important to acquire it so that we could be petty, so the British couldn't have it. In World War II, it was important that we had it so the Nazis couldn't have it. During the Cold War, it was important that America had it so the Soviets couldn't have it and be within striking distance of America, and America could instead use it to defend itself from the USSR. So why is it so important today? It's China.
China.
Of course, it's China.
China has been showing a huge interest in Greenland since about 2010. They've offered to build airports on the island. They've offered to help build infrastructure. They've tried to acquire mineral mining rights. They're basically trying to work their way into Greenland so that they have a foothold there as well. And America doesn't want that for obvious reasons. Because of that, America tried what America's always tried. They tried to buy Greenland. And just like always, Denmark said no, and now they've went to the negotiating table to come to some kind of agreement. And we don't know what's going to happen yet. But from what we've heard, it sounds like they're just reaffirming the 1951 Defense of Greenland Agreement, and America's going to be allowed to maintain or potentially grow its military presence on the island with missile radars and troops and all kinds of other stuff. And then potentially they're going to talk about mineral rights. If I had to go out and guess, I would say the Trump administration is going to try to buy the mineral rights for Greenland, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say Denmark is going to say no, but we will agree to also not sell the mineral rights to China, Russia, or anybody else. If so facto, history repeats itself. America has a reason for wanting Greenland. America
the more things
offers to buy
change,
Greenland.
the more they stay the
Denmark
same.
says no, keep your money, we keep owning it, but you can pretty much do whatever you want. And that is today's history lesson. History is important to know because it is the best predictor of the future. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack, bang, out. All right, fine, you talked me into it. I'm gonna go watch Men of Honor.
Love it. Oh, Nick is such a great teacher.